Yeah, okay, guys, we'll start. There's 67 of you, I guess. There's a few more who will join. Okay, we'll just start then.
Daniel, I think few of them have this Snap Labs training at 4:30.
At 4:30,
So
yeah?
at 4:30. So I guess they might not join. We can give them the recorded version later, and
Ah,
then we
yeah.
can start now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay then, guys. Uh, if have you all opened up VS Code and do you have live server 5:30? Your session is at 5:30. 4:30. Yeah, okay, no problem. Then you guys can stay till 4:30 and then I'll give you the recorded version. Yeah, okay. So have you all opened up VS Code and live server? Just send a confirmation so we can start. Also, Silas, can you record the attendance again? Yeah, okay. We'll start then. So in the morning, I think we left off with the paragraph tag, right? We tried doing the font color thing, and that was like a CSS fail. Sorry, a HTML fail. What I forgot was that in order to apply a font color, you'll have to literally use the font tag. I completely forgot that there was a font tag in HTML. Okay, so to do that, just type the word font itself and hit enter. This is in red because this is something that is not supported or not a standard anymore. Okay, but then simply just to demonstrate it, I'm going to use this. Okay, so I'll put font in here and I'll just type sample font. Okay, and if I save that, it appears on the screen, right? Now what I'll do is I'll give this an attribute. So remember the color attribute that I used? That's where this is why you use the color attribute. So if I say red, that would turn into red. So this is why you can use the color attribute. You can use it only on the font tag. The font tag is deprecated and you can't use it. You shouldn't use it. More like you shouldn't use it. You can use it, it'll work, but it's not a good best practice to use it here. So that's the HTML fail in the morning that we saw. Other than that, there are a few things, the few other tags that I wanted to go through, after which we'll quickly switch over to CSS. Okay, now comes comments. Okay, so a good practice when creating and when writing any code is to add comments to your code. Okay, so the reason is when you work on a big project, the reason is when you guys are working in a huge project, more than one developer is going to work on the same code, right? And you might have to do parts of the code and then ship it to other developers, and these other guys are going to work on it. So when they look at your code should be readable. One way to make it readable is to use this whole prettier thing that I told you about, right? So the whole thing is arranged and the semantics look good. After which you use comments, because when people look at your code, they should know exactly what your code is doing. So you use comments. In HTML, there's one way to add comments. Okay, for that you just do an opening bracket, do an exclamation mark, and two hyphens. So if you do that, it'll automatically turn into an element that looks like this, right? That's a comment. So inside this, you can type anything. This is a comment, and save it. It won't appear on the page. That's because comments are hidden, right? They won't get rendered on the page. So that's one way to create comments. Now, on the other hand, let's say you have some sort of code on your page. Okay, I'll simply create a paragraph and I'll say hello world again. Okay, so that appears on your web page. Now let's say I want comments to span multiple lines. So to do that, I can simply delete this, and instead I can close it at the bottom here. So once I do that, the text disappears. So anything within this these two pieces of code will turn into a comment. So your comments can span a single line or they can span multiple lines. So you can comment out as many lines as you want to. So that's basically how comments work. Okay, and save that again. And you all got comments, right? If you understood how the comments work, just type yes. Yeah, okay. Then comes images. Okay, images are like the main part of your web page. Okay, you can make any web page attractive by using images, and pages that have more images get more views on the internet in general compared to text only pages. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to search for something called royalty free images. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll simply go in, I'll search for pexels.com. Okay, so there's a website called pexels.com, and if I head over to Pexels, there's just random pictures, right? So I'll select one of these and I'll do a free download. Let's just pick a small size for now. Okay, and I'm going to put that inside my okay, so I've saved it and this should show up inside my VS Code. Nope, it doesn't. Just give me a second. It got saved somewhere else. Okay. Yeah, so I've saved the image and the image is over here. Okay, it's inside my VS Code in the same directory. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and insert that image, and here's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go into the body here and I'm going to type the letters IMG. So if I click type IMG and I hit enter, it'll automatically complete itself. Okay, so once it completes itself, you can see that the image doesn't have a closing tag. There's no closing tag, it's just one opening tag, right? And tags that don't have a closing tag are known as empty elements. Okay, there are certain elements that don't have a closing tag, those are empty elements. So what I'm going to do is inside the source, right, there's a attribute called src. Src is short for source. In here you're going to give the file path of this image, right? And the easiest way to do it, if you have it inside the same folder, is to just type the name of the image. So in this case I'm just going to say wait, this is a pretty long name, so I'm going to rename this. So I'll just say leaves. Okay, leaves.jpg, that's the name of the image. So I'll just type leaves.jpg, right, and hit save. Once I hit save, that image appears on my page, right? But now the image is too big, right? So let's say I want to modify the size of the image. Let's just forget this alt part for now. Okay, just let's not concentrate on that. Instead I'll create a new attribute here saying height. Okay, and I give this a height of say 45 units. Okay, you can see it automatically becomes 45 units in height, and the width will automatically adjust itself. So based on your height, your width will adjust itself. You don't have to specify a width. But let's say you want to have a specific width. You can also specify that by typing in the width attribute, right? You can just do width and put 100 in there, and it'll automatically stretch itself to 100 units on that page. Now what you can do is you can also specify this in terms of pixels. Okay, so if you do 45 px and 100 px, it's going to be the same. That's because even if you put px or not, it's still the same thing. That's basically 100 pixels and 45 pixels. Now just like pixels, you have something called rem. Okay, that's like another no, rems don't work here. Okay, we'll deal with that when we come to CSS. So that's about height and width. Okay, we'll just leave it at 45 and 100. Now let's talk about the alt. Okay, alt is short for alternative. Now what happens is, in many cases, let's say your page breaks and for some reason your image is not available on the server, so the image doesn't load, right? So for example, let's say I make a spelling mistake and the image is not available on the server, nothing loads, right? So when the user sees the page, let's say the user comes to your web page and he expects to see an image on your page, but there is no image because you've made a spelling mistake right here, or let's say the image doesn't exist or something of that sort. He'll never know that there's supposed to be an image here, right? So what you can do is inside the alt, you can just type in anything you want. So I'm just going to put the word leaves in here and save it. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah, so once I put the word leaves in here and save it, you can see that the image doesn't load, and instead you see the word leaves there, right? I can just modify this and I can put literally anything I want to, and it'll appear over there. So what the alt basically does is, in case the image doesn't load, instead of the image, it'll load whatever is inside this, right? So now if I do leaves, if I put the actual image, this text just disappears. You see only the image. That's because your image is loaded and there's no need for the alternative text. So as a best practice, use alt wherever you can, okay? Wherever you can. So just in case your page breaks, your users will know that there is supposed to be an image. Okay, so that's about images. Then what you can do is, here's another interesting thing that you can do. Let's say I want to click on this image and I want to be able to go to another page. Okay, I want to click on the image and I want to go to another page. So you basically want to convert this image into a hypertext, into hypertext, right? You want to be able to convert this into a hyperlink. So for that, what you can do is, I'll take this entire image and I'll cut it. Okay, I'll put Ctrl plus X and it gets cut. So then I'm going to type A again and hit enter. That's the anchor tag, right? And I'm going to say https google.com again, and inside this I'm going to paste the image, the code for the image. When I save it, you can see the image appears, right? But if I move my mouse over the image, it turns into a pointer, meaning this image has now become a link. So you can put literally anything you want inside the anchor tag. You can put an image, you can put text, you can put an entire piece of code inside. It'll all work, okay? So that's basically what you can do with images. Then what we'll do is we'll look at something called a table. Tables used to be one way to modify alignment and to arrange things on pages, but now what happened is, with Bootstrap, instead of using tables, these guys are giving us pre-built CSS and JavaScript for layouts, okay, to manage layouts. So people have stopped using tables in web pages now. But in the old days, people literally used to use tables to lay out content on the page. So let's say on my web page, I wanted to have a nav bar on top, and I wanted to have a menu bar on the side, on the left side, and I wanted to have content on my right side. What they would do is, they would create a huge table and they would put the nav bar in one row. Then they'll create a second row with 2 columns, and they'll put the sidebar in one row and the content in another row. The sidebar in one cell and my content in another cell inside the row. That's how they used to do it in the old days, but now we don't need it. But in case you need a table for other purposes, here's how to make a table. Just type in table, literally table, okay, and hit enter. That's going to create a table, right? Then what you would have to do is, every table consists of rows and columns, right? In HTML, a row would be created using the tr tag, okay? Tr is short for table row. So just type in the words tr and hit enter. You've basically created one row now, okay? But if you create a row, you can't just put content inside it, okay? Instead, what you have to do is, you have to create a cell. So in Bootstrap, a column is basically a cell, is referred to as a cell. So to create a cell, you do td, okay, which is table data. It's short for table data. Hit enter. In here, you can put the letter, you can just type in anything. If you type 1, it appears as 1. Now let's say you want to create a second column right next to this, okay? That's easy. What you do is, just go in here again, inside the same row, create another td and put 2 and hit save. It appears next to it. So you can go on with 1, 2, 3. Now let's say you want another row, okay? You want 3 and 4 to appear below 1 and 2. For that, what you can do is, you can type tr again, do td again, and put 3 in there, right? Then you can do the same thing all over again and type 4. So now, as you can see, you've started arranging elements in the form of tables, right? One below the other. Now what you can do is, if you want some sort of spacing between these 4 elements on the page, 1, 2, 3 and 4, all you have to do is go into the table tag, right? And create an attribute here that says cell spacing. Okay, cell spacing. If you do cell spacing, you can give this a value of, say, 30. As you can see, there's a spacing of 30 pixels around each cell. So what basically happens is that the cell around 1 is only the width of 1, okay? And it has a spacing of 30 pixels on the right and at the bottom, the left and the top. Okay, so that's basically what you can do. Similar to cell spacing, you have something called cell padding. Okay, so if I type cell padding, and if I do the same thing again, let's say this time I put 50, it's going to, wait, why doesn't cell padding work?
Now cell padding typo.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so cell padding. If I put cell padding in, there's a padding of 50 pixels, right? to show you an example of the difference between spacing and padding, here's what I'll do. Inside my TD, okay, no, wait, we'll deal with this when we come to CSS, otherwise it'll become a confusion now. So for now, just remember cell spacing and cell padding is two ways to give your content some spacing around it. Okay, we'll deal with this in detail when we come to CSS. Okay, so that's about tables. Now I'll show you another cool feature in VS Code. I'll just delete this entire table row, okay? And with VS Code allows you to type something known as formulas, okay? You can type formulas and you can expand these formulas. I'll show you how. Okay, now let's say I want a table that has, say, 5 rows and 4 columns. In the easiest way, the way that most beginners would do it is they would literally sit and type each row and each column, right? TD, TR, TR, and TD, TR again, all over again from the beginning. Instead, with VS Code, what you can do is you can create a formula. So you can simply say TR for table row. So now what you've done is you've created one table row. Then you can do multiplied by 4. Okay. So when you do TR multiplied by 4, you're basically saying I want 4 different rows. So 4 rows are going to get created one after the other. Then what you can say is inside each row, I want 5 columns. Okay. So to denote that you want something inside these rows, you use this angle bracket. Okay. This angle bracket would basically say I want something inside each TR. So now you can say TD multiplied by 5. So what you're basically telling Emmet is that I want 4 rows with 5 columns inside each row. So now if you hit enter, you can see that there are 4 rows created with 5 columns in them each. Alright, so that's one good thing about Emmet. You can literally type in a formula and you can hit enter and it will automatically expand all of this for you and create an entire structure. So you don't have to manually create all of this. So that's about tables, alright. Then let's look at, okay, so have you guys followed along? Like, do you have any doubts? Just type yes if you've... Yeah, okay. So then what we'll do is we'll move on to lists, okay? When I say list, it's literally a list, okay? In HTML, will this workshop be posted later? Yeah, there's a video. I'll send the video to you guys. Yeah, okay. So then there's something called a list, okay? When it comes to lists, there are 3 types of lists in HTML, okay? Ordered, unordered, and definition. Okay. Let's look at it one by one. When I say an ordered list, every item in that list will have an order, okay? So it'll basically start. Okay, I'll just do it and show it to you. Okay, so to create an ordered list, I'll just type the word OL. OL is short for ordered list. Where will it be posted? I'll post it in the group. Okay, so I'll type in OL. OL will create an ordered list. Hit enter, opening tag and a closing tag, right? Inside an ordered list, each element inside the list, right, or each item inside the list should be enclosed within what's known as a list item or an LI tag. Okay, so type LI and hit enter. So this is a list item. So if I type item 1 and hit save, it appears with the number 1 automatically, right? I didn't give this number 1. It appeared automatically on the page because we're using an ordered list. So whenever you use an ordered list, there will automatically be numbers appended to the list, okay? Then what you can do is if you type LI again and type in item 2 and hit save, it'll automatically become number 2 on the list, right? But now what we're going to do is I'm going to do a multi-cursor editing, okay? So I'm going to click there and Control D. It selects both the OLs, right? I'll do a backspace and now I'll type UL, okay? UL is short for unordered list. So I'm going to save it now. Now as you can see, the minute I saved it, the 1 and the 2 turn into bullets, right? So what this means is that an unordered list, inside an unordered list, the list items have no specific order. You can literally put anything in any order and it'll appear as bullet points, right? There's another thing that you can do with lists. We'll look at it when we come to CSS again, okay? But for now with HTML, this is as much as you can do. Now what I'll do is I'll delete this and I'll delete the entire list itself. Now what we'll do is we'll create something called a definition list, okay? Definition list. As its name suggests, a definition list is used to hold a list of definitions or a list of items that will appear as definitions. And I'll tell you here's how it's done. you can type DL, okay? DL and hit enter. It'll turn into a definition list, okay? That's the parent element. Then what you do is type definition list, definition row. I think it's DR if I'm not mistaken. No. Give me a second, guys. There's definition data and there's DH. Nope, sorry, just give me a second. I forgot what the other one is. Okay, yeah, DT, sorry. That's called DT, okay, definition term. So if I type DT and I hit enter, and I can give this a heading. Let's say I want to have a list of cars, okay? So I can just type the word cars in here and it appears on the page, okay? That will be the heading or the definition term. Then what I can do is inside this I can write DT and I can say Volkswagen. Okay, that appears below it. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so then what I'll do is, instead of Volkswagen, what I'll do is I'll remove this and I'll put, let's say, bikes, okay? So now what I've done is I have two definition terms, okay? Two DTs. Now I want to have a list of cars under this and I want to have a list of bikes underneath this. What I'm going to do is, right under this DT, I'm going to create something called DD, definition data, okay? And I'm going to say Volkswagen and hit save. So as you can see, the name of the car appears with an indentation on its left. So this is the heading and this is the data that corresponds to this heading. So similarly under bikes, give me the name of some bike, say I put R15, okay, and hit save. That appears right below it with an indentation, right? So that's the difference between a definition term and a definition data. Okay, so you basically create a heading and you put all its content underneath it. You'll automatically get a padding. So that's what definition lists do. Now with ordered list itself, you can do the same formula thingy that I just showed you, right? You can, so for instance, I'll create an ordered list and inside the ordered list, let's say I want to have 20 different list items, okay? I can do li star 20 and if I hit enter, there'll be 20 items in there. So I can do all of this, okay, with emmet. So that's about lists. So then what we'll do is now we'll look at something called an iframe, okay? So an iframe, as its name suggests, what it does is you can embed one HTML page inside another HTML page. You can literally take an entire web page and embed it inside another page. So here's how you do it. Just type iframe, the word iframe, and hit enter. So you can see iframe already has an attribute called the source attribute, right? So in here you can put you can put the source of any web page. That web page will appear inside your document here. So for instance, let's say I want to take the whole Wikipedia page and embed it inside my page here. I can simply type in the URL to Wikipedia, okay? So that would be wikipedia.org, right? And hit enter. So as you can see, the Wikipedia page is embedded inside my own web page, and this is live, right? So if I search for something like, let's say I just search for cars, okay, and you can see that the page kind of looks horrible. So what we'll do is we'll fix it. We'll create two more attributes here. We'll say height, and we'll give this a height of say 500 pixels, okay, and then we'll give this a width. So we'll say width, and we'll give this a width of 1000 pixels. Okay, so now I've zoomed it, actually it's 250. This is the original height and width, okay? So now as you can see, everything is properly aligned and it looks good, right? And here's the problem. Let's say I go into my iframe and I search for something and I'm on a different page, okay? And I keep clicking and I go into different pages, okay? And I've navigated a bunch of different pages, right? Now what happens is if I refresh my main page, the iframe reloads and it starts all over again. So when you're using iframes, this is one thing, this is one disadvantage. You cannot save the state of the inner page. Everything reloads from the beginning, okay? But as a quick fix, if you really want to embed another page inside your web page, the iframes are what you should use, okay? So does anybody have any doubts up until this? Okay, what about the others? Do you guys have any doubts? Yeah, okay. Okay, so now what we'll do is we look at buttons, okay? Like literally buttons. So to create a button, you use the word button itself, okay? Just do button, hit enter. It'll create a button on the page. Now let's just say click me, and you hit enter, and as you can see on the page, I'll just zoom in 250, yeah, and there's a button that says click me, right? There's literally a button on the page. So that's how you create a button. So with a button, again, what you can do is you can style this button using CSS, and we look at how you can style the button when we're looking at CSS. Okay, for now, just let's leave the button alone. So that's how you basically create a button. Then what we can do is we can move to something called forms. Okay, so with most websites, you've seen input boxes, right? You type text into it, or you can upload a file into it, or you can select. You have a drop-down list, and you can select values from it and stuff like that. All of those can be done using form. Okay, so to create a form, just type in the word form and hit enter. For now, what you can do is you can ignore the entire action part of it. Okay, we'll remove action. We'll just have an opening and a closing tag for form. Inside form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an input. I want my user to be able to input some sort of text. So if I type in the word input and I hit enter, it automatically auto-completes to type is equal to text, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. Okay, so once I save it and look at my page, you can see that there's an input box, right? Inside here, I can put whatever I want to, right? That's an input box. Now what I can do is, let's say I want to input a password. Passwords are automatically hidden, right? And you can't see them, they appear as black dots. So for that, what you can do is you can just type the word password in there and hit save. So now what happens is, whenever you type anything, they all appear as passwords, right? And if you're using Microsoft Edge, you automatically get this the option to view the password, make it visible or hidden, right? So that's about passwords. Now what you can also do is you can try out other file types, such as say date. If you type date in there, what happens is you get a small drop down and you can input a date inside there, and there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with inputs. Okay, then what you have is let's say I think file. So then if you click on choose file, it'll open up the local directory on your computer and you can upload files, right? All of this is possible using inputs. So then what you do is, when we go into JavaScript, I'll tell you guys how to capture inputs from the user and process it on the backend, or process it and do something with it. Okay, for now this is all you have to know about inputs, right? Okay, so that's about forms. Now we can move on to CSS. Okay, so that's it. We're done with all the HTML that you need to know for now. Does anybody have any doubts? If not, we'll move on to HTML. Sorry, we'll move on to CSS. Okay. Okay, so when I say what? Bold italics, how to print? We'll get there. Okay, yeah. You want to know how to print bold and italics, right? That's also easy. What you can do is go onto your page. Let's say I want bold. Okay, the word bold to appear as bold. Right now it's normal, right? There's no styling around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to type the letter B. When I type B and I hit enter, you can see there's an opening B and a closing B. And now I can type in any word I want to inside this. Okay, bold, there. So now you can see it's bold. Now if I type the same word next to it, say bold, and hit save, you can see there's a difference. This is bold and this isn't bold, right? So that's why you create a bold thingy. Now I'll do multi-cursor editing, and I'll delete this. I'll type in I. So when I say I, it turns into italics, right? I'll delete this word. So that turns into italics. Now let's say I want to underline this text. Okay, I'll just do Control and hold down D, right? And if I type the letter U and hit save, that turns into underline, right? Now let's say I want to have a strike. I want to strike this out. Okay, like strike through text, like the stuff that we have on WhatsApp. I'll just do backspace and I'll do strike through. Okay, Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, it's just strike. Strike through is from CSS. Strike is in HTML. Okay, so you can basically strike this out. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with this. Now I'll show you some. Okay, since you asked for that, I'll show you something else. Can we have a frame around any image? Yeah, that's you're talking about a border, right? We can do a border also. I'll show you that when you come to CSS. Okay, all of that is part of CSS. Okay, since you guys asked for this, I'll just do normal text. Okay, so I have normal text on the page. Okay, now let's say I want something to appear as superscript. To underline, I just showed you underline, right? You just do U and it turns into underline. Got it? Can we use /n for next line? No, you can't. That's part of JavaScript. You can't use it anywhere in CSS or HTML. You can use it only in JavaScript or in some sort of scripting language. Okay. This is like literally markup. This is not a scripting language. This is called a markup language. You can't use /n for a next line. Okay. Okay. To address your question, if you want to print something on the next line, okay. For example, let's say I have normal text and I have this is line 2, okay, and I hit save. They all appear on one line, right? But let's say, yeah, exactly what Prince said is right. BR is for line 2. So if I type in the words BR and hit enter, it creates something called a break tag or a BR tag. So whatever appears after BR will automatically be pushed down to line 2. Okay, so that's basically how you can do the whole /n thingy. You can do the whole /n thingy with the break tag, right? Also, since you asked for that, let me show you another thing. Instead of BR, I'm going to type in the word HR, okay? And if I do HR is short for horizontal rule. So if I put HR, there's a horizontal line all the way across the page, right? That's basically what HR does. So that's another tag that, but all these tags are like basic stuff that you guys can just look up the reference and do. I'm only showing you the ones that need an explanation. Okay, should we use a slash after BR? Okay, so that if you guys look at the messages, Tarun Kumar has asked us if we should use a slash after BR, right? Okay, that's another issue that I have to address. What happens is in HTML when you have an empty tag, okay, an empty tag, for example, if I have 1 and 2, it appears on the same line, right? But now let's say I put a BR tag between them. Okay, sorry, I put BR, right? If I put BR and I hit save, it automatically puts a slash, right, at the end. It doesn't put the slash before, it puts it at the end. Even though this is a closing tag, you're applying a slash before you close the tag, right? This is an empty tag. Okay, and I'll tell you why you should do this. If you do this, if you turn off emit and if you simply save this also as BR, it will work. If you put /BR also, BR slash also, it will still work. But it is a best practice to always add the slash in the end. And I'll tell you why. If you learn other front-end technologies such as say React or Vue.js or Next.js or say AngularJS and stuff like that, right? You'll be coding HTML inside a JavaScript file or inside a TypeScript file. So your HTML code will be known as JSX code, okay, or TSX code. So when you write HTML in that format, you would definitely have to put this slash over here for even an empty tag. Otherwise, it will throw an error. So it's always a good practice to put the slash for an empty tag, okay? So the slash is optional if it's plain HTML, but it is always a good thing to put the slash. So I think that answers your question, right? Yeah. Okay, so there was something else I wanted to show you and I forgot what it was. Okay, yeah, let's say normal text. Okay, so if I type normal text, you can see that there's normal text. Now let's say next to it, I want to put the number 2. Okay, and the number 2 appears on the same line. But let's say I want to appear as superscript. Okay, for that I can just type the word sup sub and hit enter. Now what I can do is I can put 2 inside it and save. So 2 automatically goes on top. That becomes superscript. And I can do the same thing wherein I do a multi-cursor edit and I can say sub. That becomes subscript, right? So that's superscript and subscript. So I think with that, the rest of the tags you guys can go through on your own. It's hardly, you don't need an explanation. You can literally like copy paste it and it'll work. Right? So we'll move on to CSS. Does anybody else have any other doubts? What about non-breakable space? I don't get the question. What is it? Just try and explain it. I don't understand the question. And NBSV. You can do that also. Those are all shorthand notations, right? There's this whole topic called HTML characters or Unicode characters. Okay, if you get into that, you can use that. So for example, if I wanted to put an ampersand on the page, an ampersand symbol, right? I can literally type in the ampersand symbol and it'll appear on the page. But in some cases, let's say okay, yeah, this is a slightly complicated topic, but let's say I want to create an ampersand without typing the ampersand. What I can do is I can put the ampersand symbol and type AMP colon, and it will still appear as an ampersand. So I can, depending on if I put, for example, if I say and copy, and if I put save, the copyright symbol appears. So you keep varying this word over here, you can make a bunch of different characters appear on your page there. So that's basically what he's asking, the and NBSP, right? The non-breakable space. You can keep using that to render elements on your page. Even that, there's an entire reference for that. You guys can go through that and follow the same format. So any other doubts? We literally have like half an hour to do CSS, okay? Yeah. Okay, now we'll get into CSS. Same page, I'm going to delete the meta tag and I'll delete the language tag also. I'll make this as simple as possible and we'll rename this to workshop. Okay, done. Now what we'll do is we'll do CSS. Okay, so inside your body, let's create a paragraph tag. And I'll say paragraph, okay? Paragraph, GRAPH. Okay, paragraph. Now let's say I want to style this paragraph using CSS. There is any shortcut like tr*4 in form? Yeah, you can. For example, if you have a form element, right? And you want to, let's say you want to create 4 different inputs. You can literally put input *5 and hit enter. We'll have 5 different text inputs, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can like literally use these formulas with any element. It'll all work. It's all the same. This is not something specific to HTML. It's just a emmet abbreviation. It's specific to VS Code. Okay. Yeah. So I've created a paragraph. Now let's say I want to style this paragraph using CSS. CSS is short for cascading style sheets, okay? And the reason why we use CSS is because let's say your page has 1 or 2 elements. You can literally style these elements using HTML, or you can apply 1 or 2 styles on the tag itself and you can style them. But let's say your page has 1000 or 2000 different tags, okay? And you need to be able to style all these tags. There is absolutely no way you can sit and write you can style each tag, right? You can't go to each tag and say let's say P let's just take font. That's like the easiest example for me, okay? Let's say you have like 1000 different fonts on your page, okay? And now what you're going to do is you're going to say font color is equal to yellow, and then you're going to have another one that says paragraph again, but this time you're going to say black. Black. And so you can't keep doing this all over and over again, right? For each element that you create on the page. That's just tedious and it takes a lot of work. So instead what you can do is you can create a single element and you can say let's say paragraph again, and let's style this with CSS. Now with CSS what you can do is there's 3 ways by which you can write CSS code. I'll be doing the first method, okay? The first method is called internal CSS, okay? Internal CSS will always be inside your head section. So I'll go right over here on top next to my title tag. I'll create a new line and I'll type the word style, okay? If I type the word style and I hit enter, it'll create a style element. Now what I can do is I can put all of my styles, all of my CSS code inside this part, and I can style elements on this page. Okay, that's internal CSS because the CSS is internal to this page alone. So now let's say I want to style this paragraph and I'm using the paragraph tag, right? The P tag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate something called a selector. In CSS you have something called a selector. So with a selector, as its name implies, you literally select an element on the page using a selector. So in this case, let's say I want to select the paragraph tag. The selector for that would be P. I can literally type P space and then I can P space and then I can type an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace, right? Hit enter. So now what I've done is I'm literally targeting the paragraph tag in this page using the letter P here. Okay, it's the same thing. Now let's say I give this a color, okay, and I say the color is going to be red, okay, and I hit save. Sorry, and I hit save. You can see the color of the paragraph is turned to red, right? So this is why you use color, right? Color for changing the font color. So now I have a paragraph and I've changed its color to red. Now let's say I copy this. Okay, now let's say I copy this paragraph and I create another paragraph. So on top I have paragraph 1, at the bottom I have paragraph 2. So if I hit save, there's paragraph 1 and 2, both of them are red color, right? But now let's say I want only my first paragraph to have a red color. I don't want my second paragraph to have the red color. I want it to have the default page color, which is black. Here's how I do it. Instead of using the tag name itself as a selector, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my tag here and I'm going to create an attribute, okay, and this attribute is going to be the ID attribute, okay. So I'm going to do PID is equal to, and I'm going to give this a class of, I can give this literally any name. So I'm going to give this a class name of, say, red, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on top, I'm going to take this P, delete it, instead I'm going to do hashtag RED, okay. So now what I'm basically doing is I'm creating an identification for this paragraph and calling it red. Then in my CSS, I am using the word hashtag to say that I'm referencing this ID. And I'm going to name this red. It should be the same name as what I give it here. So what happens is if I hit save, you can see that the first paragraph alone becomes red and the second one becomes blue, becomes black, right? That's the default page. That's because I'm very specifically telling CSS, take every element that has an ID of red and apply this style. The other elements don't touch them. So even though both of them are paragraphs, only the first one has the style applied to it. Okay, but the problem with IDs is that an ID is unique throughout the page. Okay, there can be only one ID in an entire page. Okay, so if I do IDs red, I cannot use the same ID on other elements. Okay, it's not a good thing to use the ID on the other elements. Instead, if I want my style to be applied to multiple elements, I have to use something called class. Can you use numbers and ID name? No, your ID name cannot start with a number. It should always, you can end with a number. So for example, if you say red 23 and if you do red 23 in there, it will still work. But if you, let's say you put 23 in there and you put 23 in here, it won't work. That's because your IDs can't have numbers in it. It should only start with a it should only have alphabets. Okay, so let's say you want to reuse these styles for multiple elements. Okay, for that what you would do is you would write class. You would create an attribute called class. Okay, and in here you would put red. Okay, so for an ID you would use hashtag red, right? But in case you have a class, you can't use hashtag. Instead you will use the dot. Okay, so as you see, the color changes. So for classes you will use a dot to reference it. For IDs you will use a hashtag to reference it. That's the difference. The good thing about using a class is that I can literally copy this and I can paste it at the bottom here and I hit save, it gets applied. So you guys get the difference between ID and class, right? I can reuse the class as many times as I want to. So if I go on top and if I copy the same, let's say I create another class and I call it blue, okay, and I say color blue, okay, and I go down here and I change this to blue. The color changes to blue, right? Now what I'll do is I'll show you an important thing in CSS called inheritance. Okay, as its name suggests, if you guys have studied Python or C or C++, this the inheritance that you studied there is literally what we're doing here also. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these two paragraphs and I'm going to cut it. Okay, and then I'm going to going to create something called a div or a division. This is also a tag in HTML. Okay, so you can create a division and you can put literally anything you want inside a division. As we move into Bootstrap, we'll be using divisions to create blocks of text or blocks of components on our page everywhere. Okay, so get used to this. Inside div, I'm going to paste these two paragraphs. Okay, so these two paragraphs get their style, paragraph 1, paragraph 2. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this class from here. Okay, and I'm going to hit save. So as you can see, paragraph 1 reverts back to its original color of the page, which is black text, right? Now what I'm going to do is on top of my div, I'm going to use the div selector and I'm going to create a few styles for this entire div. So I'm going to say color hashtag color red, and I'm going to save that. So the minute I give the div a color of red, this style is getting inherited by the paragraph, simply because the div is its parent, right? So this div styles will be inherited by all children. But the reason why the second child is still blue is because we have given this a class of blue. So basically what happens is, the innermost styling that you've given this is what it will take up. In case you take off this, right, and you don't specify a style, it will revert to its parent styling, which is red. So if I undo this change and I give it blue again, I am overriding its parent styling with blue. So by default, this element's content here will take up its nearest parent's styling. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll show you another thing called overriding. Okay, so you can basically override. So what you can say is, let's say I have like 1,000 children inside this div, okay, and I have 1,000 children, and all these 1,000 children have a class name somewhere, and they're all of different colors. Now I want all these children to be of the same color. There is no way I can go to each thousands of these children and keep changing them manually one by one, right? So to do that, what I can do is, on the div itself, I can go to the color over here. Just before I close this semicolon, right, I give a space, I put a exclamation mark, and I type in the word important. Okay, so if I type in the word important and I hit save, okay, div color red important. Wait, please, there's a small mistake. Wait, just give me a second. It's supposed to take up. Okay, I don't think this works on the color though. Okay, I'll demonstrate that with Bootstrap instead. We'll leave that for now. Okay, we'll leave inheritance for now. I'll demonstrate that with Bootstrap. It's a little confusing. Okay, so with that, then what we look at is, we saw colors, then we look at background. Okay, we look at backgrounds now. So inside the class blue itself, is it possible to use colors other than the basic ones in the style tag? Is it possible to use colors other than the basic ones in the style tag? Okay, so you're asking me if you can use literally any color you want to, right? Okay, yeah. So what you can basically do is, instead of doing color red, blue, green, or all that kind of stuff, you can just do RGB. Okay, RGB is a color model basically, and RGB will basically let you mix red, green, and blue. So you do RGB and an opening and a closing parentheses. Okay, inside this, what you can do is, you can type in say 10, 10, 10. This is going to be a black color, right? So what you're basically doing is, you're mixing 10 pieces of red with 10 pieces of green and 10 pieces of blue. Okay, so once you mix all this, you get black. For instance, if you take change this to, let's say, 100. Now let's say change this to 200, 0 and 0. This changes to red, right? So you're basically mixing 200 pieces of red with 0 pieces of green and 0 pieces of blue. Now let's say I make this 100 and I make this 100. That changes into a somewhat orangish, not orange exactly. I don't know what this color is. Okay, so the color basically mixes and it changes into that, right? So that's basically how you can create colors. So over here, I can basically change this color to any color I want, and it will change to that combination, right? So you guys get how to change colors, right? You can use the whole RGB thingy to change colors. Okay. Similarly, what you can do is, you can use hexadecimal values. Okay, so with hexadecimal values, you can type hash, and you can type any 6-digit hexadecimal value, and it will take up that color. So if I want this text to be black in color, the hex value for black is 000 000. Control and S save, it changes to black. Similarly, let's say I want to change this to red. The hex value for red would be FF0000, right? Save it, it changes to red. So you can even do hexadecimal values. Then I can also do octet values, okay, which is to the base 8. So if I do hashtag 000, it changes to black again. If I do hashtag FFF, it changes to white. So I can do hex and octet values also. The safest thing to do is to use RGB. That's like the easiest thing for you to calculate and apply. So you guys get colors. You got how colors work, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, then what we'll do is, we'll look at something called background. In here, I'm going to say color. Let's just leave it as blue for simplicity's sake. Okay, it's blue. Let's say I want this text to have a background around it, a background of, let's say, red. I can literally say background and I can say red. Okay, and it basically gets a red background, right? So that's how you can change the background of it, of the text. Now what I'll do is I'll delete these two paragraphs and I'll type this is a div. Okay, so I've created a div. I'm using the div tag to create a div. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate something called the box model. Okay, the box model, and I'm going to explain three different things. Okay, padding, margin, and border. Okay, these are three different concepts, out of which margin and padding is something which will confuse most beginners. So make this very clear now itself, because if you go into Bootstrap and you try dealing with margin and padding, you'll get super confused. So deal with it now itself. Okay, I'll delete all of this and I'll create new styles. So I'm going to say div and I'm going to give this some styling. Okay, so now I'm going to say margin and I'm going to say 100 pixels. Okay, sorry, I'm going to say margin 100 pixels. So the minute I refresh the page, the minute I save it, you can see that there is a 100 pixel space around this. Now how do I know that this is a space? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Inside the div, I'm going to say background. Sorry, we'll put this on top instead. I'll say background and I'll give this a background of light blue. Yeah, light blue. So now as you can see, the div has a background of light blue and there's a spacing of 100 pixels on the left, on top, on the right, and at the bottom. Of course the bottom doesn't get affected because there's a huge amount of space because of the browser size, right? Okay, so when you say margin, it gives you a spacing of 100 pixels all around it. But now let's say I don't want to give it a spacing around it. Instead, I want to increase the spacing between the content of this and the outer box. The blue box, the content that is inside the blue box should have a spacing between itself and the box itself. For that, what I'll do is I'll use a thing called padding. Okay, with padding I'll give it 100 pixels again and I'll save. So now if you look, you can see that there is a spacing between the content inside the box itself. This 100 pixels of padding does not affect whatever is outside. Whatever is outside is left as it is. The inside of the box is where the spacing takes place. Okay, so that's the difference between margin and padding. If I say margin, it'll affect the outside. If I say padding, it'll affect the inside. So you guys get the difference, right? If you get it, just say yes. Yeah, okay. Cool. Then what you'll do is on this body, okay, I'm going to style the body to make it a little more clear. So I'm going to create another piece of rules here. I'm going to say body, and this time I'm literally targeting the body tag, okay, which is the entire HTML document. Okay, and I'm going to say body, sorry, and I'm going to specify a style. I'm going to say background, and let's give this a light color of, say, lavender. No, not lavender. Give me some light color. I can't even, pink. Okay, yeah, okay, pink is light enough. Yeah, pink. So now the entire body gets a color of pink. You have a division that is blue in color, right? Now one of you, I don't know, I forgot who, one of you asked me about borders, right? What about giving an image a border? Here's how you do it. Be it an image or any element, you can give any element a border. To do that, just go here and create a style that says border. Okay, and then what you do is you tell HTML, you basically tell CSS how many pixels thick the border should be. So if I say border 100, no, not 100, let's say 10 pixels. Okay, border 10 pixels, and I hit save. You can see that there is absolutely nothing around it. That's because you haven't given this border a color. So then what you do is you do hashtag, or let's just say black. Okay, hit save. What? Div margin padding border 10 pixels solid. Yeah, sorry. So you give this the keyword solid and you give this a color black. Okay, and as you can see, there's a 10 pixel thick border around the div. You get the difference, right? This is how you do. So instead of the div's content inside, you can literally put an image inside it. Okay, so just to demonstrate what you wanted, let's say leaves.jpg. Okay, it basically overflowed. So if I remove this padding from inside it, and if I say, okay, I'll this is actually a good thing. So as you guys noticed, there's a padding of 100 pixels, right? So the image literally flows out of our box, right? That's because the image is bigger than the box. How do you hide the overflow? You don't want this image to flow out of the box. For that, what you do is you create a style called overflow, okay, and set it to hidden, overflow hidden. Save it. So as you can see, the overflow gets cut and the image is forced to stay inside the box. But the only reason it's overflowing right now is because I have zoomed into the page by 250%. So if I start zooming out to its normal width, what should we do if you want a 2-line border? All you have to do is create an offset, okay? With CSS borders, what you can do is you can create something called a border outset. It's called a border outset. Okay, we'll try that and see. I haven't really tried it before. Let's do border outset, border image. Oh. Wait. Okay. Okay. Here's what we'll do. We can actually put an offset around the border. I'll just check how exactly that's done. Border style, outset, inset. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I misunderstood your question. The outset is something different. Okay. So if you look at this border right now, the border is on the outside of this div, right? If I want the border on the inside, I can do border inside. Okay, and the border comes to the inside of the page, but you don't see it. Okay, that's because it's hidden. Okay, so basically if I set this to outset again, it's supposed to appear. What's wrong? Not able to figure out what's wrong with this. Okay, we'll deal with this later. This is like super confusing for me also. I haven't tried this at all before. So I'll look this up and I'll get back to you later on. Okay, we'll leave border as it is. Then what we'll do is we'll look at height and width. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll remove the padding, I'll remove the margin, and I'll remove the border and the overflow. Let's cut it all the way down, and I'll remove the image. Okay, so now what happens is the div disappears, right? You don't see the blue div anymore. That's because your div doesn't have any content. So the problem with the div tag is that the div is what is known as a block element, okay, a block level element. In HTML there is two types of elements, inline and block level. So the div, what happens is if you don't put any content, it won't take up any space. So instead if I put say div, okay, and hit save, as you can see on the page, I'll zoom all the way in. Yeah, so if I put div and I hit save, you can see the div takes up the full width, right? Now let's say I create a second div, okay, and I say div 2, okay, and I hit save. Div 2 takes up the second line, it doesn't go on the first line. To differentiate, I'll put 1 over here. Okay, so that's div 1 and div 2. Divs are block level elements, okay, so block level means it will take up the full width of the page. Okay, so I'll just style this. What I'll do is I'll put div class is equal to blue, okay, and I'll change this to blue. Okay, and then I'll do dot red, okay, red, and for this one I'll do div class is equal to red. Okay, so now there's blue and there's red. Now the problem is they take up the full width, right? Let's say this looks ugly and I don't want it to take up the full width. Instead I want the div to take up only the amount of width required by it. So for that what I would do is I would type I would go into the style over here that says blue and red, right? And I would create a style that says display. Okay, it's called display, and there's two properties that you can give this. Okay, it can either be block or it can be inline. So if I say display inline and I hit save, you can see that it takes up only the amount of width required by it. The rest of the space is left empty. So now if I do the same thing, if I just copy this style and I go down and I do it for the second div also, okay, you can see that both divs automatically go next to each other and they take up the remaining space. So that's the difference between inline and block. Okay, so if I change this to say block again and hit save, it takes up the full width and it will go down because it won't take up this remaining space. It will always take up the full width. So that's block and inline. Okay. Then I'll show you something called transform. Let's say I have some sort of text. Okay, let's create a paragraph again and say paragraph. Okay, and let's say I want, okay, I'll remove this capital P and I'll make it small p. Okay, so now paragraph. Okay, it's all small letters now, and let's say I want to convert all of this to uppercase. Okay, but I don't want to manually have to type everything in uppercase. Okay, I want to convert this to uppercase with CSS. For that, what I would do is I'll delete all these styles, and I'll create a selector, the paragraph selector, and I'll literally type text transform. Okay, text transform, and I'll say uppercase. Okay, so hit save. It'll automatically get converted to uppercase. Right. Similarly, let's say this whole thing is in uppercase. Okay, and I do text transform lowercase. Okay, it gets transformed to lowercase. Now let's say I have paragraph. Okay, all small letters, and I don't have a style in here. Okay, all small letters. Now let's say I want to make the first letter alone capitalized. Okay, for that you would use capitalize. Okay, the first letter alone becomes caps. So that's text styling that you can do. Okay. Then we looked at inline and block. Then we looked at pseudo classes. Okay, pseudo classes is super interesting. I'll show you how that works. Okay, this is where CSS gets little good. What you can do is create an anchor tag. Okay, simple anchor tag. We'll link it to Google as usual. Okay, and I'll say take me to Google. Okay, now if I save that, it says take me to Google, right? And the whole thing is in purple. That's because I've already clicked on that link. So links that you have already clicked on will turn to purple automatically. Okay, so you would have to go into your history and clear your history. Okay, only then you can reset this. So let's leave it at that. Now what I'll do is I'll go up and I'll create a selector. Okay, I'll literally use A as my selector. So now I'm selecting this anchor tag. So now what I'm saying is I want the color of A to be give me some dark color. Just type in some dark color. Color suggestions. Come up with 3 colors, guys. One dark color, one light color, and a semi-light color. Okay, he says brown, so I'll put brown in there. Okay, and save. So now as you can see, it changes to brown, right? Brown, blue, and maroon. Okay, so brown, blue, and maroon. We'll work with these 3. Pink. Okay, yeah. So now it's brown. Okay, so what I've done is I've changed the color of the link to brown. If I click on the link and I go to Google and I come back, it still says brown. That's because I have said, hey, I want all anchor elements to have brown text. Don't change the text no matter what. Now what I'll do is I'll recreate the same thing. Okay, I'll target all anchor elements, and I'm going to say I want the color to be pink. Okay, I'll take pink. Okay, so I'm going to say pink. But then what I'm going to say is I'm going to say I want you to apply the color pink only after I have visited a link. So if I do visited over here, okay, semicolon visited, this is what is known as a pseudo class. PSUDO, pseudo class. Okay, so if I do colon visited and hit save, it changes to pink. And the reason is because we have already clicked on this link, right? It's already a visited link, so it automatically changes to pink. Similarly, let's say I create a selector again, the anchor selector, and I say color and maroon. Okay, let's try maroon. Sorry. Okay, yeah, maroon. Let's say maroon. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want you to change the color of this link to maroon when I move my mouse over it. For that, what I would do is I would type in the keyword hover. So if I type in the keyword hover and I move my mouse over it, it turns to maroon, right? So that's one way by which you can use pseudo classes in CSS to tell the page how you want which style to be applied during which event. Okay, so for visited you have one color, for hovering you have another color, right? So that's pseudo classes in CSS. Okay, we can take this one step further with JavaScript, but for that I'll have to explain JavaScript. We'll not do that now, we'll do that later on. Okay, which is basically like stuff like toggling buttons or hiding and showing elements on a page, or changing the style of a page. All that we'll do it when we get to JavaScript. Okay, for now this is what pseudo classes are. I'll take this off and let's go back to our image. I'll create an image again and leaves or JPEG, and save. So now as you can see, your image is rendered on the screen, and your image has all its original colors, okay? It's all fully green in color, it's exactly the original. But let's say I want this to have a whitish, how do I put it? I want this to have a translucent white layer on top of it, okay? A translucent white layer on top of it. That's what you call, that's what's known as opacity, okay, in CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my style again, and I'm going to target this image, okay, and I'm going to type opacity, okay, and your opacity, yeah, white overlay. So yes, white overlay. So what I'm going to say is opacity, and this value can be anywhere between 0 to 1. So if I start with say 0, you see that it becomes completely white, whereas on the page your image is actually on the page. If I click on this part and I drag it, you can see that the image is on the page, but you can't see it because it entirely turns to white. That's because you've put 0 in there, right? Let's say I turn opacity to 1 and hit save. The image is there exactly like the original. That's because there is no white overlay. So basically 1 means no overlay, 0 means complete overlay. Now what I want to do is, since I want a translucent effect, I'll have to vary this number. So I'll do 0.3, okay? Hit save. As you can see, there's a small whitish overlay on top of it, right? The transparency, basically you're targeting transparency with opacity. So you're changing the transparency of the image. The closer you are to 1, the more opaque it becomes, right? So if I turn this to 0.7 and hit save, it becomes slightly more like the original, right? So that's basically opacity. That's like one quick tip to fix image overlays with CSS itself, okay? Okay, then comes border radius. Somebody asked me about the image, right? Having borders on the image. Now what I'm going to show you is that, let's say my image has a border, and I don't really know if this would work, but let's just try it. Let's say 10 pixels solid, hashtag 000, and okay, yeah, that worked. So I have a black border around my image. Okay, so now let's say I want the edges of my image to be curved. These are all straight edges, right? I want it to be curved instead. So what I'll do is I'll just do border radius, okay, and I'm going to say 25 pixels. Hit save. Now as you can see, the edges of your image have a small curve, and it turns into a 25 pixel curve, right? That's basically what border radius does. Now let's say I want a rounded image. What I'll do first is I'll go to the image here and I'll specify a height and width. So I'll say height, say 300, and width 300, okay? So that's 300 by 300. Now on top on my border radius, I'm going to literally type in 50% and hit save. The image becomes rounded. So you guys don't have to crop the image, you guys don't have to do any Photoshop, nothing. All you have to do is do border radius 50%. It'll make literally any image or any element circular. Okay. Border radius and specific sides of the image. Yeah, okay. So if you want specific sides of the image, here's how you do it. Instead of giving it a generic single value, you can do this, okay? You can specify left, top right, bottom left, okay? So basically top right, bottom right, and bottom left. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 50 pixels, 10 pixels, 50 pixels again, and 10 pixels. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is I want the upper left to be 50 pixels, upper right 10, bottom left 50 pixels, and bottom left 10. So now you can see there's a design that it's created. So you've basically given custom border radiuses, okay, on specific sides. So if let's say I want to make one side completely 0, have a straight edge, that'll turn into this. Two sides, it'll turn into this. So you can basically do as many shapes as you want to. I can make this look super disgusting by doing 50% and 50%. Okay, and sort of looks like some curved eye or some shit. Okay, so that's basically what I can do with border radius, right? Okay, so that's about it for CSS. Okay, and another thing that I wanted to show you was height and width. Yeah, height and width. Okay, so what I'm going to do is with a div, I'll create a div and I'll say hello world. Okay, and I have a div. Now I'm going to style this div, okay? What I'm going to do is I'll delete this entire thing and I'll say div and I'll say background and I'll say medium aquamarine. Okay, so that's blue, right? Now what I'm going to say is I want this div to have a specific height and width. Triangle. That's something called HTML canvas. I haven't tried triangle yet. I mean, all shapes have in HTML have an even number of edges. I don't really know how you'll create a triangle. But you can do it actually. That's called HTML canvas, I guess. You can check that out. I haven't tried it, so I don't really know. Okay, so then comes what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, height and width, right? Specific height and width. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna say height, and I'm gonna say 500 pixels, and that turns into a 500 pixel height of 500 pixels, right? Similarly, I'm gonna say width, and I'm going to say 3000 pixels, literally 3000. So then what happens is something called an overflow happens. So the content, this div, goes into the right side of the page and it gets hidden. So now what I'm going to do is I'll minimize this a little bit so you can see the scroll bar at the bottom. So if you look at the bottom, you can see a small scroll bar, right? So there's automatically a scroll bar that gets created when your content overflows, right? If you take off this with 3000, it finishes at the right side. It doesn't overflow. Okay, so that's that. Now what we'll do is we'll try manually creating a scroll bar inside this. Okay, so there's a website called Lorem Ipsum Generator, loremipsum.io. Okay, this is like where you can find dummy text just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so I can say paragraphs 5 generate, and it will generate 5 paragraphs of dummy text. Okay, then I'll just copy that. Okay, so I'll just copy the dummy text, and then what I'll do is go in here. Instead of hello world, what I'll do is I'll create a paragraph. Okay, I'll create a paragraph and I'll put all that text inside this. Okay, so all the text appears inside this div, inside a paragraph. Now what I'll do is I'll go all the way to the top and I'll say height 50 pixels. Okay, height 50 pixels. Now what happens is, since I said height 50 pixels, the content inside it overflows the div and it goes all the way outside. Even though this is 50 pixels, the content inside overflows it. So now in order to hide that, I'm going to say overflow scroll, okay? Or overflow hidden first. So if I say overflow hidden, it hides all the overflow. Then what I'm going to say is I want a small scroll bar such that I can scroll inside this div itself. So then what I'm going to say is overflow scroll. So if you look over here, it's too small. I'll increase the height to 100 pixels. Okay, so now as you see, there's a small scroll bar. So you can forcefully create a scroll bar inside this. Alright, so did you guys understand? Are you guys like with me all up until this point? Okay. Yeah, also there's a bunch of stuff I couldn't answer with CSS and HTML. But that's mostly that's because what I did was before I learned CSS entirely, right, from start to finish, I straight away went to Bootstrap. So with Bootstrap, what happens is most of the stuff that you're supposed to know with CSS, they give you pre-coded. So there's no need for you to even learn that in CSS. So that's like one mistake I made early on. I should have sat and learned the CSS entirely. So that's one thing that you should also be careful of. Okay, just don't jump into a framework in the beginning. Go through the CSS entirely, read the documentation, and then go to Bootstrap. Okay, otherwise you'll end up like me. Okay, instead displaying the paragraph in lines, can we make it in shapes? What kind of shapes? Any shapes? Like, do you want like a square inside? Okay, so you want a square. Okay, so I think I know what you're trying to say. Okay, I'll do an undo. Okay, so I think what you're asking me is that instead of the paragraph taking up the full width, right, you want the green box to take up the full width, and you want the paragraph to finish somewhere in the middle or somewhere over here. Is that what you're asking me? Like in the shape of a square. Okay, that's easy. I'll tell you how that is done. I'll remove the overflow scroll and I'll remove the height also. Okay. Now as you can see, this takes up the full, there's no overflow, it takes up the full width, right? Let's say I want the paragraph to take up only half the amount of space. For that, what I'll do is I have placed this text inside a paragraph element, right? And I'm styling the div. And I'm saying the div has a background of medium aquamarine. So what I'll do is I'll create another selector. and I'll give this a width of say 50%. Okay, hit save. As you can see, this takes up only half the width. So when I say 50%, I am saying 50% of its parent. So let's say I go to the div and I say the div itself should have a width of say 50%. Okay, this means the div itself is going to have a width of 50% of the entire document, because what's outside the div is literally the body. So the body is 100%, the div inside it is 50% of the body. The paragraph inside the div is 50% of the div. So that's basically how you can create squares, shapes. Okay, and okay, since you brought this up, there's another thing that I wanted to show. With the paragraph, you can see that the right side, it's everything is left aligned, right? Let's say you want to change the alignment of the paragraph to the right. Okay, you want to right align it. For that, what you do is you simply go in here and type text align and just do right. Okay, so they all become right aligned. So there's spacing on the left now. Similarly, what you can do is you can say text align center. They all become center aligned, right? Similarly, you can say justify and they become justified. So those are like text alignment things that you can do to this. You got that, right? So with this, I guess the CSS part is over. We can go straight to Bootstrap itself, because you won't even need all the much of the CSS that I explained over here, because most of it you'll be doing it in Bootstrap itself. So are you guys like clear up until this point? No, you can't do that. That's why we have JavaScript, right? Also, when you say when you write any program, when you say any program, you have to. There are still limitations. Okay, JavaScript can't do everything that C can do. Column arranging, yeah, that's why we use Bootstrap. We'll get to that part. Tomorrow is when we do all the column arranging and stuff. Okay, all of that is part of Bootstrap. It's called the grid system and Flexbox. I'll teach you that tomorrow. Okay, so if you guys have any other doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, we're done. It's almost 5:30. And tomorrow we'll be doing this at 5 p.m. Okay, and tomorrow when you come, okay, here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow when you guys come, all of you make sure you download and install GitHub. Okay, the Git bash on your. Make sure you download and install Git bash on your computer. Okay, we're going to create a GitHub repository and we're going to deal with a little bit of GitHub and version control. So do that before you join tomorrow. Okay. We have a morning session. No, we don't have a morning session. Tomorrow instead what we'll do is we'll start at 5 and we'll finish at 7. So it'll be the same 2-hour session, but it'll be at a stretch from 5 to 7. Only for tomorrow. If you guys haven't joined the Telegram group, please click on that link and join the Telegram group. It'll be easier for you guys to receive updates. How to get that? Get what exactly? The Telegram group. Oh, okay. Head over to this website. Okay. Get SCM download. Okay, I'll just send the link to you guys. Just save that link and go there and download the one for Windows. Okay, Windows or which way you're on Mac? No, you download Mac. Once you download that, the installation is easy. Just follow the normal installation procedure. It will say recommended. Go with recommended options itself and install it. So once you do that, create yourself a GitHub account. Okay, just go to github.com and create an account. Yeah, github.com and create an account over here. Okay, so do these two things before you join tomorrow's session. Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Any feedback needed? Yeah, sure. Just if you have feedback, you don't have to ask. Just send it to me or send it on the group. or send it here, whatever. Yep, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Yeah, thank you guys. For 2 hours, yeah, 5 to 7, 2 hours. Thank you, bro. Tomorrow timings, it's from 5 to 7. Can we add a video on our webpage? Yeah, we can. I'll show you how you can do that also. It'll take like 1 or 2 minutes, but if not an Insta and Telegram, what can I do? I don't know. What else do you have? I have literally every social media platform. You just tell me which one you have, and I can send you the link on that. Yeah, you're welcome. WhatsApp, okay. Okay, then do one thing. Okay, my number is public anyway. Okay, so 86, no, sorry, wait, that's not my number, don't. 8610445. Yeah, that's my number. That's my number, okay, just send me a text and I'll know. I'll notify you. Yeah. It's Daniel. It's literally Daniel. It's gracias. Yep. Thanks, Fabian. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll talk about embedding a video. Down into the Excel. Okay. Okay, so I'll talk about videos. Okay, so I'll tell you how to integrate a video on the web page. So what I'll do is I'll delete this entire paragraph. And okay, delete the paragraph and I'll take off all this. I'll take off the entire style. Okay, so empty document, and we'll start over again. So to create a video, literally type video video. Okay, use the video tag. Okay, and in here what you do is you say video tag, and okay, inside video tag what you do is you type in a tag called source. Okay, when you say source, you can do source and src is equal to. In here you can type the source of the video file. So I think YouTube, I don't know if YouTube will let you embed a video, but we'll see. Let's just take any video. I think this should do.
I really don't like to waste this time, so I found a way.
Okay, I'll copy the video URL. Let's just hope this YouTube lets you embed. Okay, so I've said source is equal to, and I've given it a source. In here I want to say a height and 300 pixels and width. Okay, 300. Right, it doesn't show up. Okay, so YouTube doesn't allow you to embed. Okay, I'll have to download a video then. Just give me a second. I have downloaded video. I'll try inserting that instead. Okay. Okay, I've literally got. How can I get record in the session? Does it? No, it doesn't go on YouTube yet. I'll have to do a lot of editing. Okay, there's actually a YouTube channel. You can. Okay, I'll do one thing then. You just go check out my YouTube channel. I'll post the video on my YouTube channel like a few days from now. Okay, just give me a second. I'll give you the link to my YouTube. That's literally the same thing that I've done over there. Just give me a second. Motor try this one, Radiant Media Player. Hey, I literally have a movie downloaded. I'm copying it to my folder here. Life of Pi. Yeah, I got it. I'll just rename that. Okay, v.mp3. We'll try this. v.mp4. Type. Let's say type would be video slash mp4. Yeah. So once I do that, the video gets embedded in here, okay? But the problem is I have to type a word called controls, hit enter, done. Okay, so now my video gets embedded on my web page, right? Wait, why is width 300? I'll just make this 500. So you got it, right? That's the code. Okay, wait, I'll just give you my YouTube. I keep forgetting. How do you position a paragraph to the middle of a page? Okay, you do that using, did you get were you the one who asked me for the video code? Who asked me for video? It's me. Okay, so you got the, just a second, okay, you got the code, right? If you got this, then I'll show her how the paragraph is done. You got the code? Like, you literally use the video tag and you do a source and you type the source in. So you got video, right? What I'll do is I'll undo it all the way up to the paragraph. Okay, so you wanted this to be center aligned, right? Telegram link not working. It does work. Open it with Telegram. It's the same link I've been sending to everyone. Okay, div, I'll just say 100%. Okay, so it takes up the full width. Okay, paragraph width 50%. Okay, so now your doubt is you want this text to be center aligned, right? In the middle of the page. To do that, what you do is go in here and say margin 0 pixel auto. Hopefully this should work. Yeah, right. So the CSS rule for that is margin 0 pixels auto. So if you give this, it will automatically move to the center of the page, right? That's the only thing you should do. Feedback form. There is no feedback form. I'll create one tomorrow. If you guys join tomorrow, I'll give you a feedback form. I totally forgot. Okay, any other doubts? Get that in the Telegram. Yeah, okay. How to host a website. Were you there in the morning session? What are the other useful extensions in VS Code? That really depends on your use case stuff. For me, what I did was I have a bunch of other ones. Okay, for example, I have run. So run is one extension. With run, I can write C++ programs inside this, and I can type run. So if I type run, what happens is I can click on terminal, new terminal, and all my C++ programs will run straight inside this. Then I can go to PowerShell, or I can use normal terminal also. Then there's another extension called JSON. So with this I can literally format JSON data. I haven't really used this yet. Then there is the other one, GitHub. This is like the best one. In phone Telegram link. Yeah, use it. Open it on your phone. Also, Ashik, the GitHub thing is the best part. This is what we'll be using on our final day. So I'll show you how to do that. What was... Somebody had a doubt how to host a website. Okay, Amal, okay. Were you there in the morning session? I guess he or she left.
Bro, I'm unable to send messages, please.
I didn't get what you said. What was it?
I'm unable to send messages on chat.
In the chat, did you like the Telegram chat?
No. In this chat, in Google Meet chat. Telling the team to send.
I don't get it. You're not able to send messages in the Telegram chat.
No, bro. In this Google Meet chat.
Okay. What does it say?
Fail to send.
But for everybody else, it's working. Maybe try refreshing the page and join again.
Yes. Okay. I'll try it. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know, like Amal, if you can't, I don't know, if you've been in the morning session only, I can explain. Otherwise, I don't know how much, whether you know or not, so I don't know if I should explain. Just let me know if you're there in the morning session and I'll tell you. Other than that, if you guys don't have any other doubts, we'll finish the meeting. How to make our page accessible to others, bro. Okay, Pratana, right? Were you there in the morning session? Remember I talked about this during this PPT. I showed you this part here, and I said we'll be creating a site and hosting it on a cloud server, and then I said we'll host it on our own on a cloud, and then we'll host it on a single server, right? You remember that part wherein I told you guys will actually host a website? That is something we'll be doing in our last session, on the second session on Friday. Because what I'll do is, tomorrow you guys will do Bootstrap. We'll start with Bootstrap, and I have a website, okay? This website over here, here's a theme that I found, okay? It's super simple, fully Bootstrap built, okay? And we're gonna try and build this entire theme over the next 2 days, okay? All of you are going to build this theme. I'm going to build it here. All of you will build it on your own PC. So once we build this entire thing, you guys will host whatever you have built on a cloud. I'll tell you guys how to host it, which is why you need GitHub. Okay, so that's for the last session. To get a free host, right? Yep, you'll get a free host as long as your site is a static website. You won't be allowed a database or anything. As long as it's just a static site where you can see stuff, you can get it completely free. Yeah, you're welcome. Quick recap. Okay, oh Fabian, okay, just give me a second. Yeah, okay guys, if you go to your Telegram chat, you'll get a link, okay? Fabian will post a link. Just follow that link, that's your feedback form. So you guys can go and fill in that feedback form through the Telegram chat. Fabian will post the link. Okay, click on that link. Where do we get the recorded video? Recorded video, I'm gonna edit it and then upload it. Okay, so you'll get it in a couple of days. I think I sent my YouTube link, right? You just just go to the channel and subscribe over there. Okay, I'll post it in a couple of days. I have the raw footage right now. I'll edit it soon. Okay, yeah. Bye, Dashik. Great session. Thanks, Dow. Bye. Okay, Harish Ramesh asked for a recap. Sorry. Okay, this is like a summer condensed session. Okay, I'll go through the basics. We will not look at the rules. Okay, very quickly. Does anybody else want a recap? If you want a recap, you can stay. If you have other doubts, you can ask, or you guys can leave if you want to. Those of you who want a recap can stay. I'll give you a recap from the just super fast recap. Okay, in like 10 minutes. Anybody else want a recap? You guys can stay. Just say yes, okay? Otherwise I think I'm keeping you waiting or something. Okay, if you don't want a recap, say no. And then you guys can leave. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, alright. People are leaving, so I think I'll just start with the recap instead. Okay, I think we're good to go with the recap. Okay, since you want to get it done. Okay, I'll delete the entire paragraph, okay? Just give me a second. Sure, I think we're good to go with the recap, okay. Here's what we'll do. Do you want it from the HTML part or just the CSS part alone? Just CSS. Okay, so with CSS, 3 important things to remember. Okay, there's 3 different types of CSS. Today I have demonstrated only internal CSS. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow I'll give you guys internal and external and inline CSS. Okay, that's 2 other styles. For now we look at internal CSS. For that, what you do is go to your head section, create a style element, put your CSS rules in here. Okay, in your body, let's say you have an element. Okay, for example, let's say I have a paragraph and I say para 1. Okay, that's my paragraph. Let's say I want to style this. The method to style it is to go into your style and literally target this element. Okay, so if you type P here followed by opening and closing braces, you are targeting every paragraph element on the page. Okay, so in here you can put any style, like say color medium blue, and that will turn the paragraph into medium blue, right? I'll zoom in. So it will turn into medium blue, right? Similarly, what I can do is, let's say I want to have an ID. So if I do PID is equal to, and if I say red, okay, over here what I can do is, I can say hashtag red. So if I use ID, the selector that I have to use is a hashtag, okay? Hashtag and the name of the class that I've given here. Okay, so if I do that and if I say medium blue, it will still remain as medium blue, right? If I change this to say red, it becomes red. Similarly, let's say I have 2 different paragraphs on the page, okay, and let's say I want to use the same styling on both places. I can't do it with ID. ID is unique. It should be used only once in an entire page. Okay, so instead of doing that, what I'll do is I'll do multi-cursor edit and I'll change that to class. Okay, so if you create a class, the method to create a class is to do dot and the class name. Okay, so dot is for class name, hashtag is for ID. If you do that, you can apply this style to multiple pieces, multiple places in the page. Okay, multiple elements. So that's about the different selectors and how you can select the elements. Then comes your colors. Colors I just showed you, right? You can directly type in the name of the color itself and you'll get like red, blue, or let's say black or white, all that you'll get it. But let's say you want more detailed or more specific colors. For that, what you'll do is you'll type RGB followed by parentheses, and over here you can give a combination of numbers. These numbers should be between 0 and 255. Okay, so if I do 100, 100 and 100, that's gray color. Okay, so this number should be between 0 and The heck? This number should be. This number should. Oh, this is really irritating. Okay, so this number should be between 0 and 255. Okay. So that's how you do it, 0 to 255. So if I vary this, if I say all this is 100, and if I say this is 0 and this is 0, that turns into a dark red color. Okay, so that's basically how you can use RGB values to specify colors. Okay, instead you also have hexadecimal notation. So I do hashtag, I can write any hexadecimal value. Okay, so if I type let's say FF0000, that's bright red, so that turns into bright red. If I do hashtag 000000, that's black, so it turns into black. Or if I do say 00FF00, that turns into green. Okay, so you can also use hexadecimal for colors. Then after colors came backgrounds. Let's say I want a background behind it, and I say I can just type background, and I can say medium orchid, so that will turn into background. That will give this a background. Okay, so that's about background. Then comes your borders. Let's say I want a border around this paragraph. I can literally type border, and I can say 10 pixels, and I can give this a color. Okay, say hashtag 000000. That's going to be a black color border, but this border will not show up. You need to use a keyword called solid. So if you give a keyword called solid over here, your border will show up as black. Okay, and then what you can do is you can also say, okay, yeah, let's look at margin and padding. Margin and padding are two important things. I'll take these two paragraphs and I'll cut it. I'll create a div and I'll put these two paragraphs inside the div. Okay, so my div is my outermost element, and inside which I have two paragraphs. Now outside the div you have the body. The body is basically this white part all around the entire page itself. That's the body, right? So what I'm going to say is I'm going to create a selector here called div, and I'm going to say I want this div to have a spacing I wanted to have a spacing from the. Okay, before that what I'll do is I'll target the body. It'll be easier for you to understand. And I'll say background medium turquoise. Okay, so my entire body has a blue color right now. Then what I'm going to say is I want this division to have some spacing from the body, from the top and left and the right side. For that what I'll do is I'll create another selector called div, and I'll say margin. I'll give this a value of say 100 pixels. Okay, now if I say 100 pixels, it has moved away from the top, left, right and bottom by 100 pixels, right? That's what margin does. But let's say I want my division, let's say I want these paragraphs to have a padding. Okay, wait, I have a better idea. Instead what I'll do is I'll delete this and I'll just type para. Okay, right, so now you have a para. Now what I'll do is I'll apply these styles to this div here. Okay, I'll delete this. That's it. So now what you have is you have a body and you have a div, and that div has some text inside it, and the text has a border and it has a background color. Okay, and it has a margin. If you say margin, there is spacing all around it. But let's say I don't want spacing around it. Instead I want to increase the spacing between the word para and its parent, which is the pink color box. For that what you'll do is you'll use something called padding. Okay, so I'm going to say padding 100 pixels. So now if you look at it, I'll zoom out. If you look at it, it has a padding of 100 pixels all around it. So if I use padding, it will increase the height of the element. Okay, if I use margin, it will not increase the height. Instead it will only distance itself from the rest of the elements on the page. So that's the difference between margin and padding. So now you know what border is. Then comes text align. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll say padding 100 pixels. No, I'll remove padding. Instead of padding, I'll say width, and I'll say 500 pixels. Okay, so now what I've done is I have a div. I'll zoom all the way out. Okay, it's okay, I think this much of zoom is perfect. Okay, so now you have a paragraph and it's left aligned by default, right? Let's say I don't want the text to be left aligned. I want it to be right or center. Okay, for that what I'll do is inside this div, I'll say text align, and I'll say center. Okay, so now that becomes centered. On the other hand, if I say right, it becomes right aligned, right? Similarly, let's say I say justify won't work now because we have only one word. Okay, so that's how alignments work. Then comes transform. So I'll make this small p, so it's PARA, all small letters. Okay, I want to make this capital. Then what I can say is text transform. I can say uppercase. If I say uppercase, they all become capitals. Similarly, if I say text transform lowercase, and supposing this is all caps, okay, like para, it will become lowercase. That's because I put text transform lowercase. Now let's say I have para all small, okay, and I want the first letter alone to be capital. For that I'll do capitalize, okay. First letter alone becomes capitals. Done. Then what I'll do is block and inline. Okay, then I talked about block and inline level elements. Block and inline level elements, this is how they work. If I create a div, it takes up the full width, okay. I'll just zoom all the way out and I'll remove the width attribute, okay, and I'll remove the margin attribute. Okay, so now as you can see, this div takes up the full width, right? Now what I'll do is I'll create a second div. Right underneath this, I'll create a second div. Okay, and I'll say para 1, I'll say para 2. Okay, so there's para 1 and para 2. 1 is on top, 2 is on the bottom. They both take up the full width. That's because division by default is called a block level element. So now what I'm going to do is I want these divisions to take up only the amount of width they actually require for the content inside it. So for that what I'm going to say is div, and I'm going to say display, and I'm going to say inline. Okay, if I put display inline, they take up only the amount of width required by it. So then they all go on to the same line. So you get the difference between block and inline, right? Inline will adjust itself, will take up only what it needs, and it will adjust itself on that line and accommodate other children. Block will say no, I want the full width, I want to take up the full width, and it will take up the full width. So it will push everything else to the bottom. So that's the difference between inline and block. Then comes pseudo selectors, okay, pseudo classes. I'll delete all these divs. Instead I'll create a link, okay, and we'll link this to say google.com. Okay, and I say take me to Google. Okay, once I do that, I'll zoom all the way in to 50. Okay, so now this is purple in color, right? Let's say I want to change the color of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to target this. I'm going to use the anchor tag. I'm going to say color, and I'm going to say I want it to be midnight blue. Okay, so that's midnight blue. Now I'm going to say once I have clicked on that link and I've visited it, I want it to change its color, okay, when I come back to the page. So if I click on it right now, it goes to Google. I come back, it's still the same color. It's the same color as midnight blue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a, I'm going to target that anchor tag, and I'm going to say color, say orchid, okay. But now what I'm going to say is I want you to apply this color only after I have visited that link, okay. So when I save it, it is orchid. The reason is because I have already clicked on that link and it has taken me there. For instance, if I change this to say twitter.com, okay, and if I wait, take me to Google. How do I dynamically render? Okay, that's because I've already, okay, let's just go back. Instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when I move my mouse over this, I wanted to change its color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the same anchor again, and I'm going to say color, and I'm going to say give me a color real quick, maroon, medium, sea green. Okay, so now I'm going to say when I move my mouse over it, I wanted to change its color. To do that, you're going to use a selector called hover, or a pseudo class called hover, okay. So when I move my mouse over it, it turns to green. So these things that you define here, right, after the colon, that's called a pseudo class. So those are pseudo classes in CSS. Now what I'll do is I'll delete all of this, and I'll keep this empty. At the bottom what I'll do is I'll take all of this off, and I'll just type img. So I'll do in my folder over here I have an image, right, leaves.jpg. So I'm going to take leaves.jpg and I'm going to render it on my page here. Okay, so I'll zoom all the way out so you can see it. Okay, so that's leaves. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say what was I going to say? Yeah, border radius. Okay, let's say I want to give this image a border. I'll go into my style, and I'll say img. I'm targeting the image, and I'm saying border, and I'm saying 10 pixels, solid hashtag 0000000. Okay, solid black. So now it has a 10 pixel border that is black in color around it. Then what I'm going to say is I want this to have rounded edges. For that I'll use the keyword border radius, okay, border radius, and I can give it say 50%. Okay, if I get 50, okay, now it's not, before we do that, what we'll do is we'll set a height and width. So height will be say 400 pixels, and width will be 400 pixels again. Okay, so if I have equal height and width, and if I set the border radius as 50%, it will become round. Similarly, let's say I want to affect the have custom border radiuses for specific sides. For that what I can do is I can do say 40 pixels, 10 pixels, 0 pixels, and 3 pixels, right? Then if you look at it, each side has a different amount of curvedness, has a different level of curving. Yeah, has a different level of curving, right? So that's why you do border radius. Opacity. Then comes opacity. Let's say I want to create a white overlay on the image. I can use a keyword called opacity, and this value can be anywhere between 0. If I put 0, it becomes fully white. Okay, that's because it's fully opaque. If I put 1, it is fully removed. If I put 0.5, it's half. If I put 0.8, it's more it's more towards the original color. If I say 0.3, it's more of opaque, right? So this value can be anywhere between 0 to 1. So that's how I do opacity. After which I think I have covered everything. Yeah, so I've covered literally everything in the course. So you guys have any more doubts? What about flex? Flex is something we'll look at with Bootstrap. If I do like normal CSS flex, it's super hard. Yeah, you're welcome. So we'll learn Flexbox tomorrow. Okay, with CSS it's super easy. I'll show you the inbuilt classes and how we do it. Specificity, what does that mean? Selector priority. The innermost element gets the if I have, let's say, paragraph and okay, wait. Okay, let's say I have a div and I have a para. Okay, now I'm saying div should have a color of say red. Okay, and I say hey inside. Okay, this is red in color, right? And that's because your div has a color of red. But let's say I create another selector called para, and I say color, and I say medium slate blue. It turns into medium slate blue. That's because the paragraph inside it has this color. So the innermost element, the upper, how do I put it? You have content, right? The content's nearest parent, that parent's style will only be applied. Okay, so actually I don't even know why this didn't work during the actual session. If you do important, it's actually supposed to override it, and I don't know why this doesn't work. I'll look that up and get back to you, because with Bootstrap it actually works. I don't know why it doesn't work with normal CSS. I'll look that up and I'll get back to you guys. Okay, so that's like the nearest parent. Okay, so nearest parent styles get applied. So that's that. Yeah, you're welcome. Do you guys have any more doubts? If not, we can close the meeting.
Anna,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
I'm unable to chat with you in the chat window on Google Meet now also.
Like,
I rejoined for many times, but I cannot chat.
show your, just share your screen. Like, look at the bottom corner, and click on present screen.
Okay.
I'll see what the problem is. Yeah, okay. Hey, Harish, tomorrow it's at 5 p.m., not at 10 a.m. Only one session tomorrow, okay? 5 to 7. Yeah. Hey, did you find the option? It says present screen, right? Click on that. Yeah.